soldier said hurriedly. But this isn't an ordinary mid-rank commander. He's the young master of the Shia family. The nurse stood up abruptly. Why didn't you say so earlier? As soon as the words fell, nearly 100 doctors and nurses poured into the lobby. The first was a middle-aged woman wearing a dean's name tag. She said with a smile, "Come on. Let us welcome His Highness Jingyan again for joining the D-City War Zone Hospital and becoming a glorious intern doctor." Applause rang out all around, and the person being fawned over by everyone was Rong Jingyan. Rong Jingyan smiled. "I came this time, just to experience life. He'll be asking for everyone's guidance in the future." The dean flattered. "His Highness Jingyan is too humble. I heard that you studied traditional medicine before." Rong Jingyan said contemptuously, "That's right. You don't know until you study it. Once you study it, you realize. Traditional medicine is all a scam. If you really want to treat diseases and save people, you still have to rely on Western medicine." The dean nodded in agreement. "I didn't expect His Highness Jingyan to be so clear-headed at such a young age. I've never believed that sticking a few needles can treat diseases and save people. It's all just a psychological effect. If sticking a few needles could save people, what would we need scalpels for? Traditional medicine is just garbage." I heard these words. My expression turned cold. Rong Jingyan felt my gaze and suddenly looked at me. Then he frowned. The dean followed his line of sight and looked over. But she first noticed the young master of the XAF family on the stretcher. Her face turned cold. She looked at the nurse and said gloomily, "Didn't the War Zone Hospital already issue a notice that we would be closed for a day to welcome His Highness Jingyan? Why was someone still brought in? Throw them out for me immediately." When the doctors heard this, they criticized. "Nurse Zhang, how can you be so clueless? On such an important day, what if someone dies here? Wouldn't that be a bad omen?" I looked at the doctor who spoke and questioned him coldly. "Is this the attitude you, as doctors, have towards patients?" The doctor said with a cold face, "Who do you think you are? What kind of attitude we have towards patients is none of your business. Get that short-lived thing out of here immediately." "That's right. If you affect His Highness Jingyan's mood, 10 of you wouldn't be enough to pay for it with your lives," the nurse shouted. "This is the young master of the XEF family of D-City." As soon as the words fell, all the doctors froze. Even Rong Jingyan's expression changed. The dean was the first to recover. She immediately shouted anxiously, "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and save him." When the doctors heard this, they surrounded the stretcher at the fastest speed. When they saw the young master of the CF family, they all breathed a sigh of relief. "Good. The bleeding has stopped. It seems his life is not in danger for the time being." However, as soon as the words fell, I said coldly, 10 minutes at most, he will start bleeding heavily again. He needs an immediate blood transfusion now." The dean frowned. "What his condition is, we doctors will judge. His bleeding has clearly stopped. In his current state, he can last at least half a day, but he is the young master of the Saya family. After all, to be cautious, let's move him to the emergency room first. Then check his blood type and prepare for a blood transfusion." The doctor beside her quickly agreed. Then they quickly moved the person to the emergency room. Just as I was about to follow them in, a middle-aged female doctor with a large black mole at the corner of her mouth stopped me. "No unauthorized personnel in the emergency room. Wait outside." She raised her hand to close the large door of the emergency room. I directly kicked the large door open. The doctor with the black mole questioned coldly, "What are you doing? Move." I kicked her away directly. But when I entered the emergency room, I was stunned, because in this emergency room, there were nearly 20 tightly closed emergency room doors. I opened the operating room doors one by one. A nurse ran out anxiously from the furthest operating room. I quickly walked to that operating room. Seeing the situation inside, I only felt a surge of blood rush from my feet straight to my head. I saw that the silver needles on the young master of the Aisha family had been completely removed. As for Rong Jingyan, he was performing CPR on the young master of the Sia family. The dean looked at the young master of the Sia family. Fresh blood was constantly flowing out from around him. His aura was also getting weaker. Panicked, "Your Highness, how about we take over? The patient seems to be in some danger. The young master of the XA family has lost too much blood now. He could die at any moment." However, Rong Jingyan paid her no mind. He increased the speed of his compressions. At this moment, a doctor suddenly saw me. He immediately shouted coldly, "This is the emergency room. Can't you see we're saving someone? Get out." I didn't say. I quickly walked to Rong Jingyan's side. I bent down and grabbed the back of Rong Jingyan's collar and directly threw him to the side. Rong Jingyan slammed hard into a wall. He looked at me, stunned. "How dare you treat me like this?" Everyone in the emergency room was dumbfounded. The dean was the first to react. She immediately ran to Rong Jingyan's side. Anxiously, "His Highness Jingyan, how are you?" Rong Jingyan shook his head and looked at me, coldly. "You interrupted my treatment of the young master of the Xia family. If the Xia family investigates, I will report it truthfully." The doctors nodded in agreement. Under His Highness Jingyan's treatment, the young master of the Xia family's physical condition had already started to improve. But because of you, the young master of the Shah family is now more likely to die than live. The one thing doctors fear most when treating patients is being disturbed. You forcibly interrupted His Highness Jingyan's treatment. This is the murder of the young master of the Xia family. If something really happens to the young master of the Xia family, the Xia family will not spare you. I heard them twisting the truth. The aura around me grew even colder. Condition improving? Did you all feed your medical skills to the dogs? After speaking, I didn't wait for anyone to react. I looked directly at the soldier and opened my mouth. If you don't want your commander Xia to die, don't let anyone here disturb me. The two soldiers nodded. I walked directly to the young master of the Xia family's side. The doctor saw my action, and all subconsciously looked at Rong Jingyan. At this time, Rong Jingyan's expression was unsightly, but he had no intention of stopping me, because he thought the young master of the Xia family was beyond saving. Under the watchful eyes of the surrounding doctors, my large hand waved lightly twice. The sound of silver needles piercing through the air rang out. More than 10 silver needles accurately pierced the young master of the Xia family's acupuncture points. A doctor beside me was shocked. What is this? It's called acupuncture in traditional medicine. We just said traditional medicine is useless. You want to use this trick to save him. Is this trying to slap our faces as doctors? If you can stop the bleeding with a few needles, swallow all the needles His Highness just pulled out. However, as soon as the last person finished speaking, the surrounding doctors all widened their eyes in surprise. They saw the fresh blood that had been constantly flowing from the young master of the Xia family miraculously stop. I quickly unfastened the young master of the Xia family's belt. Then I lifted his clothes. Immediately, the bloody bullet hole on his lower abdomen was exposed to the air. Next, I picked up a scalpel. The dean hurriedly warned coldly. What do you want to do? He urgently needs a blood transfusion now. The plasma hasn't arrived yet. If you mess around now, you'll be taking his life. However, I didn't even look at her. But with the young master of the Xia family's current condition, by the time the plasma arrives, hell probably already be cold. Then I took the scalpel and neatly cut open the flesh around the bullet hole. The dean stepped forward to stop me. However, when she saw the incision, she froze on the spot. The wound I opened was not a hair's breadth different from the size of the bullet hole deep in the flesh. Quickly, the sound of a bullet falling to the ground echoed in the quiet operating room. The doctors all had faces of disbelief. Before they could react, I suddenly turned to look at them and said, if you want to be held responsible by the Xia family for peeping at the young master of the Xia family, then get out first. When the doctors heard this, they hesitated, then walked out of the operating room, even though they didn't want to admit it. The truth was before their eyes. My medical skills are superior to any doctor present. Rong Jingyan was stunned. He didn't understand why the attitude of these doctors suddenly changed. Soon, only Rong Jingyan and I were left in the operating room. Half an hour later, the surgery was complete. The young master of the Xia family was out of danger. I pushed open the operating room door and walked out. The dean hurriedly came forward and asked, "How is the young master of the Xia family?" I replied faintly, "He's fine." Then I looked at the dean and the doctors and said neither heavily nor lightly, "The ones in trouble are you." At this moment, the dean and the doctors clearly felt a sense of crisis. The dean's heart trembled. I looked at a chubby doctor. If I remember correctly, it was you who said that if I could stop the bleeding with needles, you would swallow the silver needles from just now. That doctor was stunned. He didn't think I would suddenly turn the tables on him. He didn't know me. He thought I was a nobody, and said contemptuously, "Just a blind cat catching a dead mouse. Didn't you just use a Western medicine scalpel to save him? If sticking a few needles worked, what would we need scalpels for?" I still stand by what I said. Traditional medicine is garbage. As soon as his words fell, 18 silver needles were immediately stuck into his neck in succession. He immediately wanted to scream. However, he discovered in horror that his throat couldn't make a sound. "Next," I said in a deep voice, "since you don't know how to speak, then this mouth isn't needed either. Also, you so-called doctors are not worthy of being here. Tomorrow, I don't want to see in the D City war zone. Any of you. If anyone wants to stay here and doesn't want to leave, then you don't have to leave." The dean's expression immediately turned cold. She shouted, "Do you think just because you saved the young master of the Xi family, you can be lawless?" "Ridiculous," she said. She looked at the guard at the door. "Men, this ignorant thing. Throw him out for me, and add him to the war zone hospital's blacklist. His direct relatives will never be able to receive treatment at this hospital." My expression was cold. I was preparing to deal with the dean myself. A nurse ran over. "Dean, the Teen Lang troop is here, but someone among them is seriously injured. They're asking us to send doctors over immediately." The dean's heart tightened. She immediately looked at the doctor beside her and ordered, "Director Song, you take all the surgeons from the hospital over there." When Director Song heard this, his face fell. But he still nodded. He led the surgeons towards the main door. I looked at the two soldiers. "The silver needles on your commander Shia must be kept for at least 12 hours. If they are touched during that time, I can't be sure I can do it again. Pull him back from the gates of death." When the two soldiers heard this, they nodded at me. I looked at the dean and the doctors. "If I still see you tomorrow, You'll bear the consequences. After speaking, I disappeared from everyone's sight, the dean said coldly. Find out which department he's from. Add him to the hospital's blacklist. I want him to know the consequences of his arrogance. As soon as the dean finished speaking, the head of the Xia family led a group of Xia family members into the hospital. Where is Yu Ting? The head of the Xia family asked anxiously. The dean saw the head of the Xia family and immediately put on a fawning expression. Don't worry, head of the Xia family. The young master of the Xia family has a lucky star. He is already out of danger. The door of the emergency room was suddenly pushed open from the inside. Then, a pale-faced Rong Jingnian walked out. The head of the Xia family saw Rong Jingnian. Surprised. Your Highness, what are you doing here? The dean said. If it weren't for Jingnian, His Highness gave the young master of the Xia family emergency treatment. The young master of the Xia family would have been gone. The head of the Xia family was stunned. Rong Jingnian was also stunned for a moment. Then he nodded with a gentle expression. I just finished surgery on the young master of the Xia family. The head of the Xia family heard this and said in disbelief, Your Highness also studied medicine. Rong Jingnian smiled and pursed his lips. I studied for a few years. It's just that I didn't have many opportunities to use it later. I just saw the urgent situation. I could only try my hand. Fortunately, I did not fail my mission. The head of the Xia family was extremely serious. Your Highness's great kindness. My Xia family has no way to repay it. Rong Jingnian hooked the corner of his lips. As a healer, treating diseases and saving people is my duty. Anti-Xia. You don't have to be so polite. The head of the Xia family looked at Rong Jingnian with appreciation. Rong Jingnian opened his mouth. I think Auntie Shai hasn't seen the young master of the Shai family for a long time, and is also worried about his safety. Go in and see him first. After speaking, he led the head of the Xia family into the emergency room. The head of the Xia family saw the young master of the Xia family covered in silver needles. Her heart trembled. She carefully walked to Shai Yuding's side, and tremblingly caressed his face. It took a long time for her to recover. Then she turned to look at Rong Jingnian, and praised. I have been in the war department for nearly 10 years, during which I have suffered countless injuries, big and small. Your Highness's bandaging technique is very professional. I didn't expect Your Highness to be so young, and have such profound medical skills. A heaven-sent talent. Rong Jingnian smiled humbly. Auntie Xia, you flatter me. After speaking, he looked at the silver needles on Shia Yuding. Then, he smiled at the head of the Xia family. The acupuncture time is almost up. Auntie, please wait a moment. I'll remove the needles first. After speaking, Rong Jingnian walked to Xia Yuding's side. He skillfully removed the needles on Xia Yuding's body. One by one, the two soldiers immediately shouted for him to stop. However, by the time the two spoke up, the silver needles had already been removed. Rong Jingnian looked at the two and frowned. Is something wrong? The soldier did not speak. He just looked at the young master of the Xia family nervously. When they saw the Xia family members enter, they thought Commander Xia was safe and let their guard down. They didn't expect Rong Jingnian not only to take the credit. You still dare to mess with the silver needles. At this moment, the two of them had a bad feeling. Rong Jingnian looked at the two soldiers with dissatisfaction. He raised his hand again, preparing to pull out the silver needles. Seeing this, the two soldiers quickly rushed in front of Rong Jingnian to stop his movement. Rong Jingnian's expression immediately turned cold. He questioned, What are you trying to do? The large soldier looked directly at Rong Jingnian. Your Highness, you cannot touch the silver needles on Commander Xia's body. Rong Jingnian was a little bewildered. He didn't think that someone who wasn't afraid of death would step up to stop him. The head of the Xia family looked at the two who suddenly stood up. Frowning, she asked, Who are you? The large soldier heard this and quickly opened his mouth. He replied, We are members of the Yin Luo troop from the Outer Realm battlefield. This time, the Yin Luo troop was attacked by the Luo Ari Empire. Commander Xia was seriously injured. We are responsible for escorting him back to the country. The head of the Xia family said gratefully, You two have gone through a lot. Wait until Yuting recovers. Besides His Highness Jinian, I will also reward you two handsomely. The large soldier shook his head, embarrassed. He said, This is our duty. Head of the Xia family, you don't need to be so polite. The head of the Xia family gave a faint smile. Immediately after, she asked again, I just don't understand why you two are stopping His Highness from removing the needles. Rong Jinian's breath hitched. Before the two soldiers could answer, he quickly smiled and spoke up. I performed the surgery on the young master of the Xia family after 7 needles. I reminded them. I told them to remind me to remove the needles after an hour. I think you two felt the time wasn't enough, worried the effect wouldn't be good. After speaking, he tilted his head at the two soldiers. You two, there's no need to be so rigid. Since I dare to remove the needles, I naturally have full confidence. The young master has completely escaped danger. Removing the needles early won't cause any problems. However, just as Rong Jingnian finished speaking, the heart monitor suddenly let out a sharp alarm. Several people looked at the screen. They only saw on the screen the initially extremely flat heart rate curve suddenly become abnormal. The head of the Xia family hurriedly looked at Rong Jingnian. Your Highness. Didn't you say Yuding had completely escaped danger? What is happening now? Rong Jingyan was also stunned, but he quickly reacted. He comforted the head of the Shea family. Don't worry. It's not a big problem. Let me see, he said, pushing the two soldiers. He wanted to perform emergency treatment again. However, the two soldiers didn't budge an inch. Your Highness, our commander's life is important. Immediately have the hospital director make contact. Before the two could finish speaking, Rong Jingyan coldly interrupted. You know the young master of the Shia family's life is important, so get out of the way. The hospital director outside was drawn in by the sound of the machine. After he entered, he looked at the heart monitor. He asked nervously, "What's going on?" The large soldier said, "Our commander was fine at first, but His Highness just pulled out one silver needle." The director hurriedly looked at the head of the Shia family and spoke. His Highness Jingyan's medical skills are better than the doctor's here, but he is young. After all, it's inevitable that his experience is insufficient. Temporarily stabilizing the young master of the Xi family's condition was already extremely difficult. Seeing this, Rong Jingyan looked at the head of the Xia family. He said self-reproachfully, "Aunt Xia, I am sorry, I've tried my best." After speaking, he glanced coldly at the two soldiers. The head of the Xia family was stunned. Then she looked stiffly at the director. "You mean Yuding can't be saved?" The director hesitated before speaking. "The doctors in the hospital are truly powerless. But I received news. The people from the Tianlang troop have arrived. And there are wounded soldiers among them. I've heard before that the Tianlang troop leader's medical skills are superb. If nothing unexpected happens, he should be on his way. If we take Miss Xia over now, we might just be able to let that troop leader try his hand. Miss Xia might still have a glimmer of hope." Hearing this, the anxious head of the Xia family immediately interrupted. "Where are the wounded soldiers of the Tianlang troop?" The director hurriedly said, "I'll take you and Miss Xia over now." The two soldiers placed the young master of the Xia family on a stretcher. They quickly carried him and followed. The director and Rong Jingyan hesitated. They also followed. At this time, I had already driven my flying car to the training ground to meet the Tianlang troop. In the center of the training ground was a large fighter jet. At this time, 3 stretchers were placed in front of the jet. 1,000 welcoming soldiers stared intently at the 3 stretchers, all with different expressions. Next to a stretcher was a 24-year-old female student. Her beautiful face was anxious. "Why aren't they here yet?" "Before, you went to chase me away, but Chu Zhen was urgently called back," she replied cautiously. "My lord, the military zone hospital has already sent people over. It will take time for them to arrive. Or should we take the wounded soldiers over first? We can shorten the time on the way." However, Qing Lang directly shook her head and refused. "No, their condition doesn't allow for another transfer. Tell them to hurry." Chu Zhen hurriedly replied, Okay, ill," urged them again. After saying that, she was about to make a call. However, just as she picked up the phone, I instantly appeared next to the stretcher. My hand directly pressed onto the wrist of the soldier on the stretcher. Seeing this sudden event, everyone was stunned. The next moment, Qing Lang and the other members of the Tianlang troop appeared at the same time. Their faces showed ecstatic joy. They understood that saving lives was important. None of them dared to speak and disturb me. However, Chu Jin didn't notice the expressions of the Tianlang troop members. She shouted coldly at me, "Stop what you're doing." Chu Zhen rushed to my side, raising her hand to grab my arm. However, just as she was about to touch me, a hand like an iron clamp grabbed her hand. The next moment, the sound of a dislocating wrist echoed. She looked at the female student in shock. "My lord, what is this?" The delicate female student stared coldly at her. "If my comrades are in danger because of your reckless actions, I want you to pay with your life." Chu Zhen's heart tightened. She spoke respectfully and carefully. "My lord, are you mistaken? He's just an entertainer from the art troupe. He's harming your team members." The surrounding welcoming soldiers came to their senses. They looked at me with disgust. It seemed I was just a suicidal show-off. The muscular man looked at me worriedly. He prayed in his heart that I could successfully save them. At the same time, Qing Lang sneered. "He's an entertainer from the art troupe? An idiot like you. How did you become a mid-level commander?" Xu Zhen was embarrassed. She suppressed the humiliation in her heart. She carefully replied, "This lord, I contacted the art troupe and found him myself. There's no mistake. He wants to use this opportunity to show off. He wants to curry favor with you and get into the Tianlang troop." As soon as she finished, Qing Lang looked at her, as if looking at an idiot. "I don't have the authority to decide if he joins the Tianlang troop. In other words, without him, there would be no Tianlang troop." As soon as Qing Lang finished speaking, the whole place fell silent. Everyone stared at her, stunned. The muscular man was also shocked. He simply couldn't believe his ears. "I never thought I am that legendary figure from the Outer Realm battlefield." Everyone looked at Qing Lang in disbelief. Chu Zhen looked at Qing Lang and asked, "My lord, what do your words mean? Could it be that the lord troop leader who founded the Tianlang troop has some relationship with him? Didn't he accidentally save the troop leader's life once? Is that why the troop leader was able to survive and establish the Tianlang troop?" The soldiers who heard Chu Zhen's words immediately understood. The muscular man looked dejected. Qing Lang's expression turned cold. Don't you understand human language? Chu Zhen and the surrounding soldiers were embarrassed again. Chu Zhen quickly recovered. Her lips twitched. My lord, please don't joke with us. Even if we're stupid, we still know. The legendary figure who created legends on the Outer Realm battlefield couldn't possibly be a greenhorn like him. However, Qing Lang suddenly kicked her away. All the soldiers stared dumbfounded. After all, Chu Zhen is a mid-level commander. But in Qing Lang's hands, she had no power to resist at all. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Qing Lang slowly walked to Chu Zhen's side. She looked down at Chu Zhen. Her eyes carried killing intent. Who did you say was a greenhorn? Under the pressure of Qing Lang's aura, everyone was forced back several steps at the same time. They looked at Qing Lang in fear. At this moment, they clearly felt. Qing Lang was not just a high-level warrior, but a war king. At this moment, Chu Zhen lay at Qing Lang's feet. She felt like she was about to stop breathing. She couldn't help but tremble. Qing Lang looked at her and asked coldly, "Didn't you hear me asking you? Tell me, who did you just call a greenhorn?" Chu Zhen trembled and said, "I was wrong." Qing Lang sneered, "Useless." After speaking, she raised her head. Her gaze swept over everyone. Then she spoke lightly. "I don't want to hear another word of disrespect towards our troop leader. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences." The next moment, everyone reacted strongly to how Qing Lang addressed me. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. The muscular man was a bit dazed for a moment. A few breaths later, he suddenly smiled. At this moment, I finally stabilized the condition of the 3 wounded soldiers. I let out a light breath. Then I frowned and looked at Qing Lang. I asked, "Who injured them? How did they get hurt?" Qing Lang respectfully replied, "It was the vanguard of the Luo-Ri Empire. A star envoy suddenly joined their troop. We were caught off guard. 9 people were seriously injured." My face turned cold. "Where are the other 6? However, the answer I received was silence. All the members of the Tian Lang troop lowered their heads. I stared at Qing Lang and shouted, "Speak." The killing intent in my voice terrified the entire field. The hearts of the surrounding soldiers trembled. Qing Lang lowered her head. She said sorrowfully and powerlessly, "It was my incompetence. I couldn't protect them." As soon as Qing Lang finished speaking, the surrounding soldiers were all stunned. To think that even with a war king guarding the Tian Lang troop, not only were 3 people seriously injured by the Luo-Ri Empire, but 6 were also sacrificed. I fell silent. I turned my head to look at the Tian Lang troop member on the stretcher. A few seconds later, I suddenly smiled. The Luo-Ri Empire. What a fine Luo-Ri Empire. Just as my words fell, a group of people appeared at the edge of the training ground and quickly moved in this direction. Soon, someone recognized the attire of the newcomers. They gasped, "It's the people from the Luo-Ri Empire." I watched the approaching people with hatred. The corner of my lips curled. I haven't even gone looking for them, and they've delivered themselves to my door. Saves me quite a bit of energy. The little fox on my left shoulder suddenly stood up and spoke. I sense the aura of a star relic. It's on the 3rd person from the left. The star relic is on them. Hearing that, my gaze immediately fell on the girl in her early 20s. Her skin was excessively pale. Initially, my search for the star relic, unlocking the fire attribute star card, and opening the book of star spirits wasn't that urgent. But now, the star envoys of the Luo-Ri Empire have joined the Outer Realm battlefield. I must quickly obtain more star cards. Soon, the 10-person delegation from the Luo-Ri Empire stopped in front of everyone. The woman in the lead wore the insignia of a 3-star high-level commander. She looked at the soldiers. She opened her mouth. "Everyone, I am from the Luo-Ri Empire, the vice captain of the elite team that has come this time. We have come this time, mainly for the injured members of the Tian Lang troop, to express our sincere condolences." A cold snort came from among the soldiers. Crocodile tears. The vice captain of the Luo-Ri Empire heard this. She looked at the person who spoke. Just one look made that soldier back up a few steps. Soon, he retracted his gaze and looked at Qing Lang. "Vice Captain Qing Lang," he said with concern. "I wonder about these 3 injured members of the Tian Lang troop. How is their condition?" Qing Lang looked straight at him. "Thank you for your concern, Vice Commander. They will at least live longer than you." The vice captain of the Luo-Ri Empire nodded lightly. "That's good," he said. He sighed and lamented. "All the nations in the Outer Realm know the Tian Lang troop is brave and skilled in battle, but they don't know that members of the Tian Lang troop also die, and are also captured alive as prisoners of war." As soon as the Luo-Ri vice captain finished speaking, Qing Lang and all the members of the Tian Lang troop had a bad feeling. Qing Lang clenched her fists. On the battlefield, they faced the Luo-Ri Empire. Suddenly, a star envoy was added to the vanguard. It was an emergency. We only managed to rescue 3 seriously injured members. In that situation, there was no way to bring back the other 6. They had basically stopped breathing. If someone among the 6 survived and fell into the hands of the Luo-Ri Empire's War Department, Qing Lang suddenly didn't dare to think further. She took a deep breath. She stared at the Luo-Ri vice captain and spoke. "What do you mean by that?" The Luo-Ri vice captain didn't speak. Instead, he lightly tapped on his device. The next moment, a transparent screen appeared before everyone. A video started playing. In the video was a dark room. A dying figure was tied to a torture post. The moment they saw that figure, a member of the Tianlang troop couldn't help but gasp. Next, the cold, coercive voice of a Luo Ri Empire soldier reached the ears of all the Xia Nation soldiers present. However, until he was tortured to death with his limbs cut off, that Tianlang troop member named Yi Lang did not say a single word. At the end of the video, the image froze on the main gate of the Luo Ri Empire's Central War Department. 6 corpses were hanging there. The Tianlang troop members with their limbs cut off. After watching the video, everyone from the Tianlang troop felt a rush of blood from their feet straight to their heads. A member of the Tianlang troop suddenly roared in anger. They were already dead, and you wouldn't even spare their corpses. Animals. You're a bunch of animals. At the same time, he charged madly towards the vice-captain of the Luo Ri Empire. However, before he could take 2 steps, Qing Lang pressed down on his shoulder. You are not his match. He subconsciously looked at Qing Lang. At this time, Qing Lang wasn't looking at him. Instead, she stared at the mutilated corpses on the screen. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her terrifyingly calm voice reached the ears of everyone present. They dared to come here to intimidate us. They're courting death. They have a star envoy among them. Not just you. Even I. Might not be a match for them. The soldiers, filled with hatred, heard Qing Lang's words. They were all stunned. The Luo Ri vice-captain showed disappointment. Then, he glanced over the furious faces of the Xia Nation soldiers. He smiled and said, "Everyone, don't get excited. I showed you this video, not to show off the strength of my country, but to praise this member of the Tianlang troop for protecting the secrets of the Xia Nation. He was willing to have his legs and arms cut off by my countrymen. Although his strength was nothing compared to the warriors of my country, his spirit is very much worth learning from." Just as his words fell, I stepped out. I looked straight at the Luo Ri vice-captain. "So you're saying hanging their corpses at the main gate of your Luo Ri Empire's War Department is also for learning?" The vice-captain of the Luo Ri Empire's face turned cold. He looked at me seriously and said, "No, it's to make you people of the Xia Nation understand that my great Luo Ri Empire is invincible. Your so-called invincible Tianlang troop is nothing before my great Luo Ri Empire. If you continue to oppose my Luo Ri Empire, these hanged prisoners of the Tianlang troop will be your fate." As his words fell, he was struck by a great force. His lower abdomen was immediately sent flying several meters. His body fell instantly. A few cracking sounds. The sound of breaking bones echoed. Along with it echoed my voice, cold enough to freeze. "Since you want to learn, without experiencing it yourself, how can you learn well?" After speaking, I tilted my head to look at Qing Lang. "Tianlang troop, hear my order. Capture the other people from the Luo Ri Empire. Today, I not only want them to learn the unyielding spirit of the Tianlang troop members, I also want them to know what's called reciprocity." They dared to hang the corpses of Tianlang troop members at the main gate of their war department. Then, I will hang the entire living elite team of the Luo Ri Empire, sever their limbs, and hang them at the main gate of the Xia Nation's war department. My majestic voice was like a bomb. It exploded in everyone's ears. At this moment, everyone felt a natural aura of majesty and dominance. They looked at the vice-captain of the Luo Ri Empire being trampled under my foot. Their gazes suddenly changed. There was no longer any prejudice or contempt, only endless respect and adoration. At this moment, all the soldiers looked at me. In their eyes, a fire called faith ignited. Suddenly, a soldier took a step forward. He roared with immense spirit. "They dare to humiliate the heroes of my Xia Nation. Today, we will definitely return the favor. My grand Xia Nation. Since when is it the turn of this tiny, insignificant country to bully us as they please? Today, we want the small Luo Ri country to understand. The Xia Nation cannot be humiliated. I am willing to risk my life to defend the dignity of our nation, the fighting spirit of all the Xia Nation soldiers." At this moment, it soared to its peak. The members of the Tianlang troop who wanted to kill someone just now felt incredibly satisfied. Qing Lang coldly ordered everyone in the Tianlang troop, "Everyone, attack now." The members of the Tianlang troop responded in unison. Instantly, an earth-shattering killing intent engulfed the people of the Luo Ri Empire. The people of the Luo Ri Empire were terrified. As for the young woman, the little fox mentioned who carried the star relic, she watched the Tianlang troop and nearly 1,000 Xia Nation soldiers charging over. She suddenly stepped forward and asked coldly, "We came here. The ruler of the Xia Nation personally guaranteed our safety. Do you dare to defy the will of your nation's ruler?" I curled the corner of my lips. "Whether we dare or not, you'll see." As soon as the words fell, my figure moved. I appeared in front of the girl with the star relic. Just as I flashed in front of her, her body had already appeared 3 meters away. Seeing me about to approach her again, a cold glint flashed in her eyes. "You Xia Nation, fool. Since you're looking for death, I will grant you your wish." As soon as the words fell, an earth-yellow star card suddenly appeared. Then it floated above her fingertip. Seeing the girl reveal the star card, the soldiers' hearts tightened. They looked at me worriedly. but I looked at the girl indifferently and said, the one who caused the sacrifice of 6 members of the Tianlang troop is the star envoy added to the vanguard of the Luo Re Empire. Before I go looking for them, I'll first use you to pay respects to their restless souls. Hearing my words, everyone was shaken to the core. Their eyes held a bit more reverence as they looked at me. The girl sneered. To become a tool to encourage the warriors of my Luo Re Empire is their honor. At the same time, congratulations to you for being chosen by me as the 7th person from the Xian nation to have this honor. After I kill you, I will personally cut off your arms and legs and have them specially sent to the Luo Re Empire for display. After she spoke, the star card in the girl's hand flashed. The next moment, under my feet, suddenly appeared a circular swamp with a diameter of 1 meter. The swamp was bubbling like boiling water. Bubbles of gas rose to the surface. Everyone saw that I had no intention of avoiding it. They immediately shouted anxiously, "Dodge! Quick! Get out of the way! That's a star card attack. It's not something an ordinary human body can block." The girl looked at me, as if looking at a dead person. "Don't put up a useless struggle. After death, you can enter my Luo Rai Empire. That is the proudest achievement of your life." I smiled faintly. "Is that so?" As soon as the words fell, a phantom of an Earth attribute star card flashed in my hand. The next moment, the swamp visibly and rapidly shrank. The smile on the girl's face suddenly froze, as if she had seen a ghost. However, before she could figure out how I did it, a fierce burning sensation suddenly came from under her feet. She subconsciously looked down and discovered that the swamp that had just appeared under my feet had now appeared under her feet. Under that intense pain, the girl couldn't help but let out a miserable scream. Then she began to struggle frantically. However, she quickly discovered in despair. Even if she used all her strength, she still couldn't move. Not an inch. Even more despairing, her legs were gradually losing sensation. At this moment, I sneered and said, "Your so-called honor. It's better if you fulfill it yourself. What do you think?" The girl's eyes widened. Her body stiffened into a sculpture. I continued, "Before you achieve your so-called honor, hand over the star relic on you." The girl looked at me, stunned. "How did you know?" The next moment, she seemed to realize something. She quickly asked, "What star relic?" I smiled faintly. "Since you can't remember, then it'll help you remember." I suddenly raised my foot and stomped on the girl's right leg. Then I applied a little force. Crack. The sound of breaking bones and a miserable scream rang out. The girl fell heavily to the ground. The entire lower half of her body slammed into the swamp. Like lava, the hot mud quickly enveloped her legs. Immediately, mournful screams rang out one after another. Everyone around was so shocked their scalps tingled. However, my gaze did not waver in the slightest. I calmly opened my mouth, remembered yet. The girl was about to faint from the pain, but she clearly heard every word I said. I saw she didn't speak. I frowned. "Still can't remember?" Before the girl could react, another sound of breaking bones rang out. However, this time the girl didn't scream. Instead, her eyes rolled back. She passed out. I unhurriedly moved my foot to her right arm. Then, with another crack, the girl was jolted awake by the pain. I looked at her and asked faintly, "Remembered yet?" She took a deep breath. She raised her only movable left hand, and with all her might, took out half a key-shaped pendant from her pocket. The little fox excited voice rang in my mind. "The star relic. It's really the star relic. With it, you can open the book of star spirits. With your talent, those so-called geniuses of the great world will all be trampled under your feet." I looked faintly at the girl and bent down to pick up the star relic. However, just as I picked up the fallen star relic, the Earth attribute star card suddenly began to flash rapidly. An extremely violent aura emanated from the star card. All the soldiers held their breath. My hand hadn't picked up the star relic yet. I immediately grabbed the girl's neck. The girl's pupils dilated. She discovered in horror that her connection with the star card had been forcefully severed. I said coldly, "You want to self-destruct the star card and take me down with you? You don't have that right." The girl's eyes widened in disbelief. "How did you do that?" I glanced faintly at her. Then, as if throwing away trash, I threw her 3 meters away. The girl stubbornly asked, "Tell me, what level of star envoy are you?" The soldiers looked at me in unison. Their faces were filled with shock and astonishment. After the shock, a bit of curiosity and probing was revealed. If I am not just a simple low-level star envoy, then for at least the next 20 years, the Shia nation can securely sit in the position of the world's top power. The Shia nation can truly become glorious because of me alone.